listening to Rush's Week in Review.
And here we are back at it. Rush Limbaugh, great to have you with us, my friends, kicking off yet another exciting week of broadcast excellence. Our telephone number, if you want to join us, is 800-282-2882. And, of course, you can send an email, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Okay, so the media just made something up again. I mean, just took a germ of a story and blew it up into something that was not true. There was a regularly scheduled meeting at the White House today between Rosenstein and the chief of staff, and I don't know who else was in the meeting. But I guess the drive-bys didn't know that. Or if they did know that, they chose not to incorporate that knowledge into their story because they immediately this morning, upon learning that Rosenstein was going to the White House, began speculating that it was to resign, that Rosenstein was going to resign before Trump could fire him, because Rosenstein wasn't going to give Trump the power. He wasn't going to give Trump the privilege. He was going to play the victim. He was going to make it look like Trump was forcing him, the good guy, out. The only problem is that Rosenstein was not going to the White House to resign. He was going to the White House for a regularly scheduled meeting, or a previously scheduled meeting with the chief of staff over what? I have no idea. It turns out now that and they had a camera. They had a camera parked at the entrance to the White House where Rosenstein et al. Would be arriving. And sure as here came the SUV caravan with Rosenstein in one of the SUVs, and the media got more breathless and more breathless. Here comes Rosenstein to fall on his sword. Here comes Rosenstein to resign. And then the meeting was over, and they didn't report that Rosenstein resigned, nor did they report that Rosenstein was fired. They just reported that Rosenstein had left the White House, or was still there, what have you. This takes me to audio sound bites 4 and 5 last night on C-SPAN. Brian Lamb interviewed the chief White House correspondent, Major Garrett. It's called C-SPAN's Q&A. Major Garrett, who used to be at Fox, and prior to that used to be at the Associated Press, has a new book. It's entitled Mr. Trump's Wild Ride. And to set things up, Brian Lamb introduced and played a clip of me.
One of the places that you can find enormous criticism of the mainstream media is on talk radio. This is what they say almost every day about what you do at CBS.
The media is playing to the unstable. They are playing to the infirm. They're playing to the loosely coagulated in the brain. That was me from May the 18th of 2018, this year. That's a pretty good line, don't you think? Those loosely coagulated in the brain. So Brian Lamb plays that clip as evidence that talk radio is really, really hard on the drive-by media. Very, very critical. And here's what Major Garrett said in his answer.
Credibility as defined by Democrats, Republicans, and independents for the last decade before 2016 was on a steady descent. And what was happening simultaneously? Market share was also decreasing. I ask out loud repeatedly, is that a coincidence or a cause? And our industry, I think, has got to come to terms with that. I understand some of that's a trope. Some of that is said for marketing purposes for our critics. But if it had no basis, it wouldn't work. And it does work, and we have to ask ourselves, why?
So, Major Garrett is admitting that my criticism of the media, nor anybody else's, wouldn't work if it wasn't true. So he is suggesting that talk radio's criticism of the drive-by media has basis in fact. You know, these people, this is one little observation here. I'm seeing this more and more often, that I do, or others do, what we do for marketing purposes. Now, that's a new way of saying what they've always said, which is, we say outrageous things that we know our audiences want to hear. And so we are simply satisfying the demands of our audience. No. That's the Democrat Party, Major. And by the way, I applaud your answer. Don't misunderstand. It's the Democrat Party that, for marketing purposes, and maybe the Republicans too, but there's no marketing here. I have never judged what I think you want to hear and then said it. It would be impossible. There are too many of you who have too many different opinions about things. It would be impossible. The person that tries to be everything to everybody is Rod Rosenstein. And look what that gets you. And there are other examples of it, too. But you can't please everybody, and yet there are countless phonies in this world whose entire reputations is made up of just that, trying to please everybody. There's no marketing here. And, marketing is a strategy. Marketing, I've been in marketing. I worked at marketing for the Kansas City Royals. And marketing has a distinct pattern to it. It has a plan, and it has an objective. And it is strategy. And it oftentimes is designed, well, it's always designed to separate people from their money. Not that that's a bad thing, like selling baseball tickets or football tickets or selling anything. They're a marketing strategy. Apple has marketing strategies behind the products that they sell. There's no marketing here. I just show up every day, tell you what I think. I don't strategize it. I never bring Mr. Snerdley in. Mr. Snerdley, if I say this, what do you think the audience reaction is going to be? Never once. I don't do it. Never have done it. That's actually, well, I think that's true. I think they do know better than anybody that I don't do that, and that is why this program has such credibility with its audience. Another email during the break. Mr. Limbaugh, how did you know? Because Twitter, all weekend I saw people saying on Twitter that you predicted this. You predicted another woman would come forward. How did you know? How did you know? Well, let's go back to the audio sound bites. This is last Thursday, me on my program. I'm telling you right now, it's already in the works. And I know it's in the works because I heard a drive-by media person talking about it. A drive-by media person was Karen Tumulty of the Washington Post, who says she wouldn't be surprised if more women surface over the weekend alleging similar acts by Kavanaugh, which she's just telegraphed that they're out there trying to find women that they can convince to come forward and say what they want them to say. You know they're working on that. You know that the Democrat Party, you know that the media, they're working in tandem. They are scouring women who went to the same school or went to school where Kavanaugh was seen, lurking around and so forth. And they're going to try to find as many women, not too many, find one or two women to come forward and say, yeah, I didn't want to come forward, but I'm watching what's happening to Christine Blasey Ford and I can't stand it. And so don't be surprised. Well, and it's happened, but I said no great shakes here. Predicting this was, if you know the left, as I do, it was simple. And even buttress it further, Ronan Farrow, new Kavanaugh accuser, came forward because Democrats came looking. What did I say here? You know the Democrats, the media, they're working in tandem, scouring women who went to the same school or went to school where Kavanaugh was seen. Farrow confirms even that. The accuser came forward because the Democrats came looking, and it didn't have to look hard. This woman is a recipient of George Soros funds. Every one of these people, one way or the other, is connected to Hillary Clinton or her campaign. Every one of them. All of this is ultimately going to be traceable back to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. You mark my words. And here is Karen Tumulty, just to show you that this is what... I didn't even need this. I didn't even need this to tell me that there was going to be another woman show up before today. But this is Karen Tumulty last Wednesday night on the All-Star Panel Special Report, Brett Baer.
The thing I think we all need to remember is that we still have 4.5 days until Monday. And the way the news cycle works in these times, this whole thing is probably going to take 5 or 6 twists and turns. Right. There may be other people coming out of the woodwork, either to verify what Judge Kavanaugh is saying or to back up what she is saying. By Monday, this could look like a very different situation.
Bingo, and here we are at Monday, and it looks like a completely different situation. They went out and they found this woman. This woman's story has so many holes in it, the New York Times will not run it. This story has 12 holes in it that people now have spotted in analysis. There's nothing to it, but the left doesn't care. This is my point from the opening hour. They've got nothing to lose with this depravity. They've got nothing to lose by taking every bit of American culture they can into the gutter. Their base will applaud them. Their base will reward them for this. There is nothing for them to lose. There is no shame directed at them for what they're doing. Interestingly enough, if they weren't trying to get rid of Kavanaugh, their base would be pummeling them to death. Their base is demanding this, not to say the Democrats wouldn't be doing it on their own anyway, but my point is that it wasn't that long ago this kind of thing in American politics would doom the party trying it. And if the Republicans tried it today, it would doom them because the media would turn on them and accuse them of upsetting the Constitution and jurisprudence and ages of case law. They've got nothing to lose here. They don't control the Senate now. They don't control the House. They've got literally nothing to lose. The way they're looking at it, there's nothing, there's no too low they can go. And in the process, they're taking the country right with them, particularly when we're talking politics. David Rodham Gergen on CNN last night with the anchor Ana Cabrera. Question, is it fair to have any timeline at this point for getting through a potential investigation and to eventually putting Kavanaugh up for a vote?
There has to be a couple of days where not only the senators and the White House, but the public can absorb this and begin to make judgments. You know, we need to be a little patient with this process playing out so that, again, I can't tell you how important I think it is to the future of the press in this country, that if he is going to be brought down, that the press is not seen as a complicit in that effort.
Well, now, if you're even thinking about that, then it must be it's already hit you that you are complicit. I mean, what a statement. Stop and think of this. David Rodham Gergen, who has worked for every president you can think of. I can't tell you how important it is to the future of the press in this country that if he's going to be brought down, the press is not seen as complicit. A little too late for that, don't you think, Mr. Gergen? The press cannot be seen as complete. They know, or at least Gergen does, they know that they're damaging their reputation. The press has a lot to lose. The press has market share, subscriptions, advertising rates, jobs. The press has a lot to lose here. The Democrat Party, not so much. The Democrat Party's deranged base, though, does not spend money subscribing to the New York Times or the Washington Post in great numbers. The Democrat Party base show up and vote, but they've got nothing to lose with this depravity that the press does, and Mr. Gergen knows it. Here's Jane Mayer, who co-wrote the story in The New Yorker with Ronan Farrow. She's on the Today Show today with the co-host Savannah Guthrie. The question, your reporting makes clear that Deborah Ramirez was candid about questions her own memory, meaning she doesn't remember much, and she admits that she wasn't sober for much of this party. The White House has zeroed in on a New York Times story saying they can't confirm any of this. It seems like the New Yorker didn't find anybody with firsthand knowledge either. Is that corroboration? So here you have a media person telling another piece of who wrote the story, hey, nobody can corroborate what you wrote. Is there any? And here's the answer.
You don't have to read tea leaves. We're right out front about it, and they're saying we found no eyewitnesses who would confirm it. We found somebody who remembers hearing about it that night or the next day.
Okay, stop it. That's all. Wait, stop the tape. Why did the story run then if one of the authors says, we're right out front about it, saying we found no eyewitnesses who could confirm it? Then why did it run? Well, we all know the answer to that. It ran to provide cover for Democrat senators to cancel the hearing on Thursday, and that's gotten too murky, too messy, too dangerous for poor Dr. Ford. She can't be expected to show up now in this circus. She's not going to testify Thursday. Make book on it, folks. It ain't going to happen. This story also gives Democrat senators the excuse to claim, all right, this is it. We've got another allegation. And since women don't lie, and since conservatives have no presumption of innocence, he's guilty. He needs to withdraw. Trump needs to withdraw the nomination. That's what the purpose of this story is. No eyewitnesses. And that's just the tip of the iceberg about things wrong with this story. No eyewitnesses, and yet it ran. Why?
Listen, learn, then spread the word. Rush on the EIB network.
Anita Hill didn't have any eyewitnesses either, ladies and gentlemen, even though she claimed Thomas said that the pubic hair on the Coke can and the long dong silver stuff in front of the entire committee. Even though there was no evidence and no eyewitnesses, she still laid it all out for the committee. So the point is, the woman doesn't need evidence. That's what's being done to the rule of law by these people. They don't need any evidence. And Democrats, there'll be a new video from Hollywood actresses. We believe Ramirez. We believe Ramirez. She's telling the truth, even though the New York Times, the New Yorkers say they couldn't find a single witness. See, it doesn't matter. The nature of the evidence, no biggie. Seriousness of the charge, everything. All this is to provide cover for Democrats and the media to demand that Kavanaugh just quit and go kill himself. That'd be the best. Just get out of here. Just leave us alone. You have no business being on the Supreme Court, and you're not going to be as long as we have anything to do with it. And that's their attitude. Here's Rhonda, South Bend, Indiana, as we head to the phones. Great to have you, Rhonda. Hi.
Hi, Rush. I am very concerned about this weaponizing of sexuality by the left. I'm sitting here watching the poisoning of our culture by something I'm starting to think of as toxic femininity. Only we're not allowed to say that sometimes women do hurt men. When women use their femininity, or I'm just going to say it, their sexuality to manipulate, to control, to subjugate men, that's wrong, and it's toxic.
No, it's nature.
I'm the mother with the 4 sons. We have talked in the past.
Wait a minute. Hang on just a second. I don't want this going over people's heads.
Okay.
When I say that that's nature, I'm saying that there are certain aspects of our humanity which are part of our creation.
Yes.
And remember one time I said the purpose of life is life? Life will do whatever it has to do to keep living. Well, men and women have to get together for that to happen to humanity. Men and women have to get together, not two transgenders and not two gays. Men and women have to get together for the race to propagate and continue. And men are forever chasing women until she catches the guy. Is the way it's programmed, the way it works. And women naturally have this ability. Thank God they do. Some of this stuff is just nature, and toxic feminism is right. Toxic feminism has attempted to erase and write out some of what nature has created for the male-female relationship. Now, I'm not there. Bad women here, bad men over there. I mean, nobody is saintly, and nobody's clean and pure as the wind-driven snow. But what the left is doing. Toxic femininity is one thing. What they are doing, you're absolutely right in what they're doing in terms of destroying natural sexuality by claiming that all men in their natural state are abusers and predators. This is created. Have you noticed this, Rhonda? Have you noticed the hatred for men that some of these activist political women harbor?
Oh, you're not kidding, Rush. I have the 4 boys. We have spoken in the past, and I have the husband. And I am sick of my men being shamed for simply being men.
Good. Hang on. Do not hang up. I want to continue this with you.
Okay.
You're listening to Rush's Week in Review.
Hi, welcome back, and we rejoin Rhonda in South Bend, Indiana. Okay, a little bit more time here. You were starting to say that you are aware of how much hatred, real hatred for men, has been created among women, particularly women who've been college educated the past couple generations. You were going to elaborate on how you know this.
Well, yes, I'm watching well, for one thing, my 3rd son is a political science student at a local university, and he's seen the whole liberal agenda playing out. But I am watching how my sons and my husband are being shamed or simply being men. And I see that they are now entering a world where they have to walk on eggshells, because at any moment an accusation could be leveled against them, and their reputations and their careers can be destroyed.
Right. Around the wrong women, they're guilty for simply being alive.
Yes, it's diabolical, and it's pitting men and women against each other, where, you know, they're looking for women they can respect. They don't hate women, and they don't look at women as just sexual objects. They respect women because they've seen their father model that with me. So when women then respect the men in their lives, it works together just beautifully. So at some point, this is going to backfire, because every woman hears her biological clock ticking.
Well, you know, I wonder about this. Wait. Every woman fears the biological time bomb? What does that have to do with it?
Hears it. Every woman at some point hears the biological clock ticking. And so because then you want to find a spouse or partner to have children with.
No, not anymore. Not anymore. It's called go to the sperm bank with your female husband. It's called go to the sperm bank, find a way to have a kid or adopt. But no, young women are being so poisoned about what men are or can be that many of them are foregoing all of that, and they're resisting the tug of nature, because the tug of nature is going to pull them toward men, but they're trying to resist it because of what they've been taught. And so there are a lot of, look at the single parent female head of households that are burgeoning in the country right now.
And that has such a detrimental effect to our country. I know this isn't popular, Rush, but it is just simply true. A child needs, if at all possible, I understand there's divorce and all that, needs a dad and a mom. Because there are things that only a dad can give.
That's old thinking. See, that's you're dating yourself. That's antiquated. That's been proven socially incorrect thinking. That's one of these many traditions that we've got to bust up and blow to smithereens according to the modern era of social justice.
Yes, but look at the fruit of it.
The fruit of it. Be careful. The fruit of it. What do you mean? Oh, you mean the results? Yeah. The results. Absolutely. Look, Rhonda, I'm so glad that you called. She said that there's going to be a backlash. I wonder about this. Let me go back to my proffered opinion today that's inarguable, that the left has nothing to lose with what they're doing. That in itself constitutes what I think is a major, major cultural depravity, a major cultural dissent, that a lawyer for a porn star can come out, Michael Avenatti, like he did last night, send a letter, send an email to one of the lawyers in the Judiciary Committee claiming that he's got a witness, multiple witnesses, to the fact that Brett Kavanaugh and Mark Judge routinely got women drunk and gave them the date rape pill so as to start a rape train at these parties. Get the women drunk and pilled up, and then a train of men would go in and out of the room all night, taking their turn. And he's demanding to be heard. He's demanding that the committee let him come in and testify, since they're going to be talking to Christine Ballsy Ford. Now, it wasn't that long ago that even this New Yorker story features with no witnesses, with no corroboration, that Kavanaugh was waving a dildo around in women's faces. It wasn't that long ago. If you tried that, you would pay a humongous price at the polls. The most recent example of it backfiring on Democrats that I can think of would be the Wellstone Memorial in 2002. It backfired. Is it going to backfire on them this time? By all that is decent, the Democrats in the past 10 days alone should have guaranteed that they lose seats in the House and Senate. if this country is populated by majority decent people. There is simply no way in the America you and I grew up in that this kind of depravity and indecency is rewarded. Certainly not at the ballot box. I think if you want to trace the modern beginning of the exoneration of this kind of behavior for Democrats, it'd be Bill Clinton. And maybe prior to that. But take a look at the 180 degrees opposite treatment. Here is Clinton, who literally did what he did. Hillary Clinton knew it and became the head of the operations in the Clinton White House to discredit the women that came forward with allegations about her husband. She is rewarded for that. She is said to be a courageous victim, but she held her marriage together and she held her husband's presidency together. She saved the Democrat Party. She is a heroine for trashing the women that came forward. Ted Kennedy murders a woman. Let me rephrase. Ted Kennedy is present as a woman's death that he caused. And he ends up becoming the lion of the Senate with immense respect throughout the Washington establishment, including the drive-by media. Brett Kavanaugh is accused of things that there is no evidence that he's done, that there are no eyewitnesses for what he's done. In the Christine Ford story, 4 of the people she claims were in the room say they weren't. She can't remember the year or the place or the specific date. And yet, they want to throw Brett Kavanaugh off every court. They want to deny his nomination to the Supreme Court. And it's only 20 years since these same people were trashing the kind of women they now bring forward and celebrate as heroines because they are helping to destroy a conservative. So you tell me, where is our culture today? Where is the majority of our society? Because by all rights, I'm going to guess here, but I would think that even decent women looking at this would have a real problem with this because of the lack of any evidence, the suspiciousness of the timing, the very fact that it is totally political and orchestrated at the last minute when they had failed at every other effort they made to keep Kavanaugh off the court. Then this thing pops up suspiciously, politically, and now they're finding other women when Christine Ford's story is starting to fall apart. And now we've got dildos and rape trains and so forth and alcohol and pills and so forth. At what point do the people making these allegations just pay a general price in society at large? Yeah, these people think that they're going to sail to a massive blue wave victory in November. They believe that a majority of Americans believe, as they do, that Brett Kavanaugh is filth, that Brett Kavanaugh is so disgusting he doesn't deserve to be on the Supreme Court. They believe that they are speaking for a majority of Americans. But even if they didn't believe that, it wouldn't change what they're doing because there's no political price for them to pay in their minds. Their base wants this. Their base is demanding this depravity. Their base is demanding. I have here a screenshot of something I saw on Fox News. This would have been a couple, 3 days and nights ago. And it is a sample of emails that Amy Kavanaugh is receiving. The mainstream media is not reporting any of this. If it weren't for Fox News, this would never have appeared on TV. There are 3 excerpts of 3 emails sent to Amy Kavanaugh, and I'm going to read them to you. I'm going to give you a countdown. I'm not going to say the unmentionable words, but you'll know what they are. But if you're listening with young ears, you don't want to hear, I'm going to count down from 5, and they should turn the radio off for like 45 seconds and come back. Ready? 5, 4. Remember, when I get to 1, if you still listen, and you find it objectionable and complain, it'll fall on deaf ears because you have been warned. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Email sent to Amy Kavanaugh. Please tell your rapist, lying, cheating, corrupt, B.I.itch of a husband to put a bullet in his ugly F-bomb skull. Another email to Amy Kavanaugh. Hey, B.I.itch. Did you know your husband was a rapist before you married him? Another email to Amy Kavanaugh. Your husband is a liar, a thief, a rapist, and probably a pedophile. Burn in hell. What was the proudest day in the Kavanaugh family life was ruined by a circus of protesters welcomed into the hearing room by the Democrat Party. Remember the picture of Mr. and Mrs. Kavanaugh, the parents, with their heads buried in their hands. They were ashamed. On the day that should have been one of the proudest days of their lives, the left ruined it with a smile, with laughter and with glee. Kavanaugh's young daughters were there and had to witness it as well, not to mention his wife. And now Democrat voters are sending this stuff to Brett Kavanaugh's wife. And still, they hang in for this nomination. Because Brett Kavanaugh is a patriot, in addition to being a brilliant scholar and legal mind. My point is exactly this. This is a Democrat base, and they are demanding this treatment of Kavanaugh. The Democrat Party expects to be rewarded by their base with massive turnout. They believe independents are so outraged at what Kavanaugh has done. They're so mad at what Kavanaugh's gotten away with, they can't wait to show up and vote against him. And everybody wants to vote against Kavanaugh, really, because everybody hates Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Donald Trump draws tens of thousands of people at every rally he attends, with double that number outside, unable to get in. Barack Obama can't draw more than 700 people to his rallies. And I'm not making that up. 700 people max. And then Michael Moore. Michael Moore has this new movie called Fahrenheit 11/9. I guess he's run out of creativity. Fahrenheit 9/11 with his first movie, Anti-Bush, did well, got an Oscar for the thing, so it's time to go back to the drawing board, rework it for Trump. Fahrenheit 11/9. Guess what? Up there at the Toronto Film Festival, it's voted the 8th or 9th best flick of all of those that were shown. And its opening weekend tanked at $3 million, taken in with over 1,000 screens. Now, does that add up to a big blue wave? I mean, you would think that these Democrats demanding this kind of depraved behavior from their elected Democrats cannot wait to get out there and vote. Then why aren't they showing up for Moore's movie? And why aren't more than 700 showing up for the great Obama as he embarks on whatever he's doing? Yeah, Michelle Obama's supposedly doing pretty well on a book tour, but note that Michelle Obama is totally into Michelle Obama, not this other stuff. She's out selling herself, not bashing Trump per se by design and by purpose. So I don't know. Is there a backlash out there that's waiting to be? Are decent women fed up with what the Democrats are doing or not? You hope, but you just don't know.
You're listening to Rush Limbaugh,
The big voice on the right
on the EIB network.
Samantha, Franklin, Tennessee. You're next. It's great to have you with us. Hi.
Hi, Rush. It's really a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.
I agree completely that she will not be there Thursday, because how can you go under oath and then the answer to every question be, I don't know?
Wait a minute.
I don't know.
Wait.
I don't remember.
Wait. You may be more informed than I. Which on this is possible? Because I've gotten so ticked off at this story that there are aspects of it I'm avoiding because I don't think she's going to be there either. Has she agreed to testify under oath? Remember, her original conditions were not under oath, and she wanted to go last. She wanted Kavanaugh to go first, which again turns presumed innocence upside down. She had all these conditions, and one of them was not under oath. So do we know for sure that she has agreed to testify under oath?
Well, I guess not. But it's, I mean, how else can do this? So here's the thing with me. For a visual, so the reason why they don't want a lawyer questioning her is they need the visual of the mean, vicious Republicans not believing her, you know, and something may well have happened to this woman. Look, I'm a woman. Stuff has happened to me. I get it. But there's a level of, at this point, they have pushed it to where she has to be, we have to have that visual.
Well, I agree with that.
Regular human beings.
They want to pay back. They want to get even for Anita Hill, in addition to everything else.
Yes. But see, everything I read, which is all speculation, all of it. But when you start thinking about it, they have to have the visual of the mean Republican, old white men speaking to her. They have to have... I
don't think they need it. I think in their minds, all they have to do is say, she's not going to show up. She can't, now that this has turned into a circus, she knows she'd be mistreated by the Republicans. That's all they got to say in their minds. The press is often running with it, reporting it as though it's already happened. Look, I got to go because of time. I appreciate it. Amy Kavanaugh might be one of Kavanaugh's daughters. I thought it was his wife, which makes it actually even worse. His wife's name is Ashley. And when I make a mistake, it is so infrequent that when I make a mistake, people just jump all over it. They jump in there, they start pointing fingers, they tell everybody, but it was still the emails are accurate.
You're listening to Rush Limbaugh,
America's gift to broadcasting
on the EIB network. You're listening to Rush's Week in Review.
Hi, welcome back. Great to have you. Folks, we're reaching that point of the program where I realize that everything I've got here, I'm going to have trouble getting in. And that then starts, I start feeling the pressure. I've got so much, I got great phone calls. I've got a bunch of stuff I really need to get to. And I'm feeling the pressure that I might not be able to squeeze it all in there. So we're just going to try. A telephone number, if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Grab soundbite number 33. This soundbite of me yesterday on the program talking about what's going to happen to Republicans if they don't confirm Kavanaugh is making the rounds of cable television all afternoon yesterday and now even into today. And the president even just tweeted it. The president just tweeted my comment, and which means he endorses it. Look, I had no idea that it was going to be glommed onto by virtually every drive-by media outlet, but it has been. This is why I said if Grassley waits long enough, the Democrats will come up with a woman claiming to be Kavanaugh's secret Russian wife. And Trump paid Kavanaugh's second wife to hire a bunch of prostitutes to urinate on the bed Obama slept in when he was in Moscow. If they wait long enough, somebody's going to come up with that woman. Kavanaugh's second wife, who's responsible for Trump urinating on the bed in Moscow. From the dossier. Here's CNN discussing it just moments ago on the noontime show hosted by John King.
You're getting from the voices of Rush Limbaugh telling Republicans, don't be cowards, don't blink.
If the Republicans do not get this vote taken and have Kavanaugh confirmed, you can kiss the midterms goodbye. You can kiss goodbye holding the House, and you can kiss goodbye holding the Senate. Because whatever the Democrats think of their base, the one thing I know is that if you guys fold on this and cave and keep bending over backwards, you've done that enough. If you guys don't conduct this vote in defiance of all this, and if Avenatti gets 1 foot in the door to a Senate committee to start telling his story, then you can kind of kiss goodbye Republican chances in the midterms in November.
Hey, pretty honest, this is about power. description from Rush Limbaugh. That this is not, in the case of Professor Ford, at the minimum, an accomplished person who has a credible allegation. Brett Kavanaugh denies it. They both deserve to be heard and treated fairly. But Rush Limbaugh's not talking about that. He's talking about, you do this, or else our voters won't come out and you will lose power.
How can I be misunderstood here? This woman has had more than an opportunity to tell her story. There isn't any evidence. I got to back it off here. She has no evidence. Nobody has any evidence. That used to matter. That used to be the determinant. She has no evidence. She can't remember when. She can't remember where. She can't remember the people in the room, and the number keeps changing. Originally, it was 4 people, and everybody that she's named has denied it, including one of her friends. She doesn't have any evidence. She doesn't want to testify under oath. There is no reason to believe her. This is not about honesty and power. This is about the rule of law and how it's being stood upside down in this instance because it's been corrupted by politics since the left has injected their ideology into this. And when the left gets involved in the rule of law, it changes. So the accuser never has to prove anything. The accuser must be believed. The accused is automatically guilty and cannot exonerate himself no matter what he does. He should just go away, and the Republicans should stop defending him. This isn't about power. This is about politics. And it's about the absolute bastardization of the rule of law. They didn't play it in the clip. I said as part of my little statement yesterday, Senator Grassley, you guys have done everything you could to show fairness. You've offered to fly out to her when she said she was nervous about coming to Washington because she can't fly, yet she somehow got to Hawaii. You have offered to have any number of ways for her to tell her story. You have made it abundantly clear you want to hear her story. You don't have to do any more to prove your fairness and your openness. The fact of the matter is, this woman was never going to testify. Her lawyers, the point is not what she has to say. It never has been. The point is to stop and derail and delay the process here, hopefully beyond the elections that the Democrats think they're going to win, so that then they can have a justifiable reason for not going forward with this, because they're going to control the House and Senate come January, and they would not confirm this guy anyway. That's all this has ever been about, is delaying and stopping, and it only happened after the Democrats realized, after going through millions of pages of documents of Kavanaugh writings and utterings and sayings, that they had nothing on him. Only at the last minute did Dianne Feinstein leak this thing out, her letter, because they had exhausted every other attempt, legitimate attempt to get Kavanaugh. But he passed his own testimony with flying colors. He passed his exam. He passed 6 FBI background checks throughout the entire time he has been a federal judge. There is nothing that has been found to disqualify him. It's quite the opposite. He is among the most qualified to ever be nominated for the United States Supreme Court, and that is the real problem, because he is a conservative. There is no justifiable reason to not go forward with this confirmation vote. The woman has been extended every opportunity and has failed to access and act on every invitation and opportunity. The Senate leadership has bent over and been flexible with all of the demands that her left-wing activist George Soros-funded lawyer have demanded. And after each supposed agreement, something happens, like a new accuser, to make them say, well, wait a minute, this is becoming a circus, and my client doesn't feel safe. My client doesn't feel secure. Yeah, your client also didn't want Kavanaugh in the room and wanted Kavanaugh to go first. That doesn't happen in any decent, legal proceeding or society, the accused gets his day in court, but only after he knows what he's being accused of. And until she testifies to it, all the rest of this doesn't mean anything. Do you think, let me ask you, this is a logical question, do you think Christine Blasey Ford will ever go under oath? Well, I'm just asking because once you do that, that changes everything. You go under oath. There's a reason why it leaked out that she didn't want to go under oath. You go under oath. Hello, lawyers. You go under oath and make these allegations that you can't prove, that nobody can prove. I don't think it has ever been the case that Christine Ford was going to testify. I don't think they thought it would get to this point. I believe just like they thought that they would beat Trump and wipe Trump out, just like they thought the Access Hollywood video would destroy Trump's campaign, they thought all that they have done now with the Avenatti pile-on yesterday would force Kavanaugh, for the sake of protecting his family and the rest of his life, to say, screw this, and withdraw his nomination. He hasn't. He went on Fox last night and doubled down. He's in it, and he's going to fight it side by side with Donald Trump. Not supposed to happen. Kavanaugh, Trump behaving not according to the Democrats' script that they had dreamed of or imagined. So the idea that she hasn't been treated fairly is not true. They have established deadlines, and she has missed them, and they changed the deadline. They have given her how many additional days to show up and testify, and each deadline comes and goes, and another excuse is offered as to why she can't make it, and another one is offered by Chairman Grassley. In my mind, the Republicans don't have a thing to prove in terms of showing their fairness and their legitimate desire to hear her. The president has said it would be wonderful if she testified. The Republicans have made it abundantly clear they want to hear what she has to say. The only person who has not availed themselves of the opportunities that have been offered is the doctor, Dr. Ford, for whom the red carpet has been rolled out. And she refuses to even drive up to the carpet and get out of the car and show up. And I don't think she ever intends to. Folks, she doesn't have any evidence. This is the one thing everybody's forgetting. All we've got here is an allegation, or a series of them. The names that she's given do not corroborate people. She can't remember enough specifics. We get excuses for that. Well, yeah, that's right, Mr. Limbaugh. She's so traumatized. She worked so hard to forget this and didn't ever want to remember it until Kavanaugh's name was mentioned. Well, how many years went by after Kavanaugh's name was mentioned for this job and that job and so forth, and she never came forward. She didn't come forward. She wasn't brought forward, however this happened, until the Democrats ran out of ammo. When the Democrats ran out of ammo, it's, hey, Di-Fi, you still have that letter? This is the time to drop it. And so the Democrats the people that have put Christine Ford's identity in the public domain. It is they who have made her feel unsafe and insecure. By the way, who sends a letter of allegations like this and says, by the way, I don't want you to do anything with this, and I don't want you to mention my name, and I don't want you moving this forward? Who sends a letter like that? Do we even know, I dare ask, that she wrote this letter? Do we even know? How much do we really know? I'm asking that question not because I think of it. I'm just trying to focus everybody on how much do we know. The answer is zip. She doesn't have any evidence. When it looked like her turn at bat wasn't going to produce a hit, Here comes the Ramirez story from the New Yorker, where we get the same thing. Nobody in that story can corroborate it. There's not a single eyewitness for what Ramirez says happened. So here comes Avenatti with the rape train story and a promise that within 48 hours, one of his victims is going to show up and be a witness. In the midst of all of this, the Republicans have demonstrated an overwhelming, inarguable opportunity after opportunity for Dr. Ford to be heard. And it is Dr. Ford who has not accepted the invitations and taken advantage of the opportunity. The Republicans have got to somehow escape the thinking that overwhelms or takes everyone in Washington and realize how their voters are seeing this. They see this for what it is. It's a setup. It's been a setup from the get-go. We've seen it before. How many times have we seen this in one form or another? How many times have they run scams like this? Just earlier this week, yesterday, the news media told us for 7 hours that Rosenstein was going to the White House to quit before he was fired. No, it was a regularly scheduled meeting. Rosenstein wasn't fired, and now it might not be till Thursday. Now, Lisa Murkowski is starting to get wobbly out there, and the drive-bys and the Democrats are still focusing on Susan Collins, because it looks like now that there's not a single Democrat that's going to... That's another thing, that there were a lot of Democrats that were going to vote for Kavanaugh when this all ended. They're from red states. They don't want to anger the voters in those states who supported Trump in a by wide margins in the 2016 election. But they drag this stuff all up. The Democrats thinking, hey, you know what? We've done this so well that our red state Democrats don't need to vote for this nominee in order to save themselves. So now they're focusing on Murkowski, and Murkowski was, this was on CNN earlier today, one of their reporters, Manu Raju. So I just asked Senator Murkowski, key Republican swing vote, if there should be a full FBI investigation into allegations from Kavanaugh's past. Murkowski said, well, it would sure clear up all the questions, wouldn't it? No. What is there to investigate? She can't remember where. She doesn't know what. She doesn't even remember the date. She's not even sure of the year. We're talking Haskell. We're talking 35 years ago. How does the FBI investigate this? Anybody? That's right. Put Peter Strzok, Smirk, and Lisa Page on it and grab Andrew Weissman from the Mueller team. By the way, I think, this is not being widely commented upon, but I think that's fallen apart on him, too. I think the Mueller thing is about to fall apart. I think Mueller knows it. There's nothing there. There wasn't any collusion. Michael Flynn ought to have all of his charges dropped. He ought not to spend a single day in jail. Every charge against him on lying to the... all that stuff ought to be lifted. They're literally, after all this time, they've got nothing. The left has nothing on Trump. They've got nothing on Kavanaugh. And that's not a wild guess. It is the state of play as we sit here today. Let me tell you something. If there were any evidence from this, but when Kavanaugh goes on television and says, I was a virgin all through high school and from years, do you realize all it's going to take is some Democrat to find a woman who was in high school with Kavanaugh? Oh, no, he wasn't. Don't be surprised if they try that. What do you think? They wouldn't try that? Well, the point is, why would Kavanaugh say it knowing it is so easily confused? I mean, Democrats go and find anybody, pay them what? Drag a dollar bill through a trailer park, James Carville said. So go to a trailer park, drag a dollar bill, whoever takes it, bring him to Washington and have him say, I had sex with the guy, he's not a...
Rush Limbaugh, making radio great again. You're listening to the EIB Network.
Okay, we're going to come back to the break at the bottom here. I went long in the previous segment. It's a short segment here. We're going to get to the phones, but there's other news out there that dovetails with this. Republican Party favorability highest in 7 years. This story hit right near the end of the program yesterday. It's a Gallup poll. 45% of Americans now have a favorable view of the Republican Party. That's a 9-point gain from last September, 36%. The Republican Party is trending up. Trump is trending up. Consumer confidence is at a record high. The real life events in America do not indicate a massive vote for Democrats in November. Life on the ground as people live it. Republican Party favorability sky high. During all of this, Trump's approval numbers bumping up during all of this. Don't buy this blue wave stuff. And there's more to back this up, which we'll get to after this brief timeout.
You're listening to Russia's Week in Review.
President Trump is calling this entire episode with Christine Ballsy Ford and Ms. Ramirez a con game. Soundbite comment. In addition to the Republican Party favorability highest in 7 years, Rasmussen, 42% say the U.S. is heading in the right direction, 52% say wrong track. But last year at this time, 33% said we were heading in the right direction, 60% said in the wrong direction. So the trends are toward massive improvement in people's assessment of life on the ground. And here's more. Same Gallup poll. Democrats lose advantage with middle-class Americans, and the gender gap is collapsing. Whoa, wait, a gender gap. The gender gap is male, female gap. What that usually means is when the media starts talking gender gap, it means Republicans are losing the female vote because they conduct a war on women. The Democrat Party's advantage among American women suffered a 6% swing over the past year, according to a Gallup poll released Monday. In the latest poll, GOP favorability rose to 40%. Democrat favorability fell. Democrats have completely lost their advantage with American men. Republicans now enjoy an advantage with middle-class voters. A year ago, Democrats led Republicans 46 to 36 in the income bracket, 30,000 to 75,000. Now Republicans have the lead, 49 to 45. Now, none of this argues for a blue wave. The media says that we're going to blue wave because everybody hates Trump and everybody hates Republicans, and they're justified. Why, just look at the Christine Ford situation, and that's it. Oh, they have their polling data, the generic ballot. And you know what they're doing with the generic ballot? So the generic ballot poll came out the other day. Registered voters, Democrats have a 12-point advantage or some such thing in the generic ballot. But the generic ballot of registered voters doesn't mean anything. Likely voters is the key. And they ran their data, but among likely voters, and the 12-point edge shrank to 6. Still a 6-point edge for the Democrats. But again, it's with no names on ballots. Just a party preference thing. Anyway, let me get started on the phones. There are a lot of people there. Todd in Chapel Hills, Tennessee. I'm glad that you waited. Hi, sir. How are you?
Hey, Rush. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I just, and I'm sure you already got it, but about 40 minutes ago, President Trump tweeted your comments yesterday about the Republicans can kiss the midterms goodbye.
I didn't know that until I saw your call here up on the board.
Yes.
And I started asking if what you were saying was accurate. It was. And so they sent me the tweet, and I now have it. So, so what was your reaction when you saw that?
Well, I mean, you're exactly right. But what I want to ask your opinion about,
yes,
do you think Republicans behind the scenes are trying to make a deal where they'll say, we'll take Garland if you give us Kavanaugh in the near future?
Now, what Republicans and behind what scene is this discussion happening?
Well, I'm just thinking to myself, because I know how Republicans are, they're weak.
You haven't heard this. You conjured this up on your own.
Yes.
Okay. Well, the only thing I'd say about it is that the Republicans can talk about all this they want, but it's the president that nominates people. And unless he's in on the talks, but the Democrats are, this climate, I don't see the Democrats going. Let me tell you the truth of something here. If Scalia had passed away in any year other than the year he did, in other words, if Obama had a Supreme Court nomination not in an election year, he would have never nominated Merrick Garland. The secret here is the Democrats would never put Merrick Garland up if there was a Supreme Court opening and it was outside an election year. If they had the White House and if they had the Senate, Merrick Garland would never be nominated by the Democrats. He's too moderate. He's too old. The reason Obama named Merrick Garland is because he was as close to a secret hidden progressive as he could get that might be confirmed. The Democrats wanted Scalia's seat. They thought Merrick Garland would pass muster with the Republicans, but the Republicans remembered the Biden rule. See, the Democrats, the truth be known, the Democrats are having their rear ends bitten off by their own policies. Harry Reid nukes the filibuster, so Supreme Court nominations can't be filibustered. It used to be able to be filibustered, but Harry Reid blew up the filibuster so that Obama could pack the courts. Not just Supreme Court, but district courts, appellate courts, and so forth and so on. So that tool is gone. And then back when, I forget who was president, but it was a Republican was president, Supreme Court opening came up, and Joe Biden, who was at the time a senator, and he might have been chairman of the Judiciary Committee at the time, said, you can't, a lame duck president in the last year of his term can't nominate Supreme Court nominees. That's not right. That's not right, because the people have voted. The people can't vote on the president that's going to nominate. So Mitch McConnell and the boys said, hey, we're simply invoking the Biden rule here on Merrick Garland. Obama's in his swan song year. And Joe Biden said way back when that you shouldn't have a Supreme Court nomination and a confirmation battle during a presidential election year. And so the Republicans didn't. The Democrats are fit to be tied. They think Merrick Garland was savaged and cheated out of his seat. They think they were cheated out of his seat. Republicans just used the Biden rule. As in Joe Biden, nicknamed Joe Bite Me, the vice president for Obama. But the Democrats, this is another thing. They're running around acting like all of this is to get even for what was done to Merrick Garland. He was really savagely treated, unfairly treated. It was mean what the Republicans did. He was a decent guy, would have been great in the court, but the Republicans said no, so this is payback. Well, I'm just telling you. If Obama had a chance to nominate somebody when it was not an election year, he would not have picked Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland was never going to be on the Supreme Court. Obama would have picked somebody very young, very progressive, very liberal, very communist, who was going to be on that court for 40 years. It was never going to be Merrick Garland. So don't buy for this, crying over spilt milk over the savage, unfair deal that Merrick Garland got. So, the Republicans couldn't make that deal anyway because Trump would have to pick Merrick Garland. You'd have to talk Trump into selecting Merrick Garland. The Democrats are not going to sit by and let Kavanaugh get confirmed after all this. They're going to go down with the ship, whatever that means. The time to do this, and I know that the Republicans are worried about Murkowski fading away and dropping off and maybe Susan Collins, but the turtle has been pretty fired up lately. Mitch McConnell on the floor of the Senate, I mean, he reached 5 on the Richter scale. That's when you and I just get up. That's our speed. That's when he's really fired up is about how you and I feel just 30 seconds after waking up. Yeah, I take a break. Nope, I got time. I get to squeeze one more call in here using our time wisely. Jenny in Wyoming. Welcome. I'm glad you called.
Hi, Rush. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I thought it was important that I call in because just by coincidence, I was at Yale the same year as Brett Kavanaugh, and I was even in the same residential college that he was a member of.
What year are we talking about here?
So from 1983 through 1987.
And you were in the same residential college?
Yes. So
what does that mean for us dropouts? What is a residential college?
It's they assign people to colleges. There's 12 colleges at Yale, or now I think there's one more. At the time there were 12, and there's about 120 each college, and it just subdivides the grouping of the students so that they know each other more closely. They live in the same dormitories.
Okay, residential. So it's where you live. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, they get to know each other fairly well.
Right. Okay.
So if I had to describe Brett Kavanaugh that I knew from 1983 through 1987, I would describe him with one word as kind. He was kind, he was gentle, he was gracious, he was thoughtful. He was never somebody I would ever think of as a, quote, partier. He was a good man, and I'm just offended at all of this that's coming out. I don't associate that at all with the person that I knew.
Were you afraid?
Very kind man, very soft-spoken, very, very thoughtful.
Were you ever afraid of him?
Never. He was gentle, a sweetheart.
Well, you have to know him pretty well. I mean, to make a judgment that he was gentle and a sweetheart. I mean, you wouldn't say that about somebody you see walking on the quadrangle. I mean, you'd have to get to know them a little bit.
Right. No, we weren't close friends or besties or anything like that. You know, he was just another person in this group of 120 that all kind of know each other. You know, you're in the dining hall together.
Let me ask you this. Okay, so 120 people. Were any of them, that, as you recall, was there any scuttlebutt, reputation, winks and nods and whispers, be careful of this Kavanaugh guy. The guy is a snaky, sneaky, looks like this, but don't be in a room alone with him. Was there ever anything like that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And if there had been, I would have known because it was a small group of people. No, he was just a normal, nice guy.
So all of this that you're hearing about him, it has to sound like nothing you experienced or knew. It has to sound strange and almost incomprehensible.
Exactly. And I've even had 2 reporters contact me. The Huffington Post called me yesterday, and it's so strange because I live in Wyoming. I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and reporters do not usually call me, of all people.
Right.
and they're trying to get dirt on him. I've had this happen once in the middle of the summer, and the person who called, the reporter, in the middle of the summer, when I wasn't able to give her any dirt, she started to lead me, just like leading a witness, and started suggesting terrible things I should say about him. And when I wasn't able to do that, she started leading me down. Did I say anything negative about the groups that he participated in? The clubs that he was a part of while he was at Yale, and I wouldn't say anything negative about them as well. I didn't have anything negative to say, but I was really offended that reporters are calling me, of all people, to get negative things to come up with, and it really makes me suspicious that these women who are coming forward have had something similar done to them as well, that somebody is reading them, is drawing them out, encouraging them.
You said you got a call from the Huffing and Puffington Post yesterday?
I did.
Can you hang on? I got to take an obscene profit break here. We're a capitalist show. Can you hang on for a minute? We'll come back. She just dropped off out there, but we get, whether you know it or not, your number. We have a deal with Google. And so we're going to try to, just kidding, I shouldn't have said, just made that up.
No rush.
Here with the news.
Know the truth on the EIB network.
Okay, we're back with Jenny in Wyoming, who was at Yale, a residential college at the same time as Brett Kavanaugh for a number of years. Your call yesterday from the Huffing and Puffington Post, did they try the same thing yesterday? Did they try to lead you into answers they already had, or trying to get you to confirm?
Honestly, I sort of directed the conversation earlier than giving her a chance to do that. It was a very young girl. I did ask her age. She was 28. And I was thinking, this girl doesn't know anything. She wasn't even around during the Clinton era. She's in history here. And when I talked with her about it, I sort of turned all the questions back onto her. And
give me an example of that. Give me an example of.
So I talked about how the reporter who had called me in the summer had been very manipulative and was leading, and I asked her, what does it mean to be a journalist, and are you trying to create the news that you want to hear, or are you actually asking about it and wanting to learn something, honest and true, and what is truth? So I think I probably surprised her with some of that. But
what did she say when you asked her if she wanted to make news or actually learn something?
Well, the reply to that was that we have to protect these women, and that they have rights to, in that kind of angle, defending the women. And I talked about how, in my opinion, that Brett Kavanaugh is the victim. I mean, he is truly the one being victimized. And I asked her how it would feel if you had worked all of your life and had been a good person and been conscientious and had done the right thing, and then had suddenly, at this important moment in your career, been attacked wrongly accused, and how that would make her feel. And her response was that, well, he would still have a good job anyway.
Okay, you know what, Jenny? Thank you for letting us call you back. This has been eye-opening, and I appreciate it. Just to review, she went to Yale, same time Brett Kavanaugh was there, same residential college, knew him, not well or intimately, but knew him, and none of this that she's hearing about him is anything she even thinks possible. Never saw one shred of evidence about any of it. Now, this little info bay from the Huffing and Puffington Post Huffing and Puffington Post, what would you think she was at? What would you think if you'd led a great life, you hadn't done anything to anybody, and all of a sudden here comes somebody with an allegation that they can't prove that you've done? Well, I would still have a good job anyway, even if well, this tells you how they're thinking, how they're justifying this to themselves. These reporters, particularly these young ones, are saying, even if Kavanaugh's kept off the court, he's still got a great job. He's still going to be on the D.C. circuit. No, he's not. This is one of the reasons Kavanaugh's fighting. So look, if it survives, if this outrage, if this perversion of truth, if this vile corruption survives, and if it is, at the end of this process, considered true that Kavanaugh is a sexual predator, how does a sexual predator stay on the D.C. circuit? This is not just to keep him off the Supreme Court. They're trying to ruin this man and destroy his life, reputation, career, family, and future, folks. That's who we're dealing with, and that's why this vote has to happen, and he has to be confirmed. This cannot go on like this. There's way too much at stake.
In times like these, we need him more than ever. Rush on the EIB network. You're listening to Rush's Week in Review.
Greetings and welcome back, my friends. It's Rush Limbaugh and a one and only EIB network. Fun, frolic, and frivolity for all, as well as this serious discussion of timely issues of the day. Hosted by me, your guiding light, a household name in all four corners of the world at any time. Day or night, our household name. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. We continue our assessment here of the hearings so far. And remember, Kavanaugh is yet to come, yet to appear. He will go last. And this is going to go on for much of the rest of the afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We, as a note to our affiliates, I know many of you are going wall to wall with this. We here at the EIB Network understand. We obviously will not. We are interspersing. We are joining it in progress here and there. Salient comments from me in real time as the hearings take place. I want to share just a few more observations with you, and then we get to your phones because they're in a lunch break right now. They'll come back probably in 20 minutes or so and resume. The media. I have done a quick survey during the break here, top of the hour, on the media. I don't care where you go. You go to Fox, you go to CNN, you go anywhere. They think that the Republicans are blowing it, that they're not accomplishing anything, that the prosecutor and this technique is a total waste of time, that the Democrats are hitting home run after home run after home run after home run. That is the media assessment. If you go to social media and you take a quick perusal there, you find a different picture. I found some Facebook people, and there's some serious discussions out there, people who believe, and these are not media people, this is just the American people watching us on TV, think that the prosecutor is scoring a lot of points because the prosecutor is catching Dr. Ford in a lot of inconsistencies, is exposing a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of what might be lies. The Dr. Ford is making her memory explicitly clear on a few things, and on other things, not at all. That is an inconsistency. She does appear to remember what she wants to remember pretty well, but it's random. For example, she doesn't know who paid for her polygraph. I have never taken a polygraph. Mr. Snerdley, does anybody know how much they cost? I don't know how much a polygraph costs. I didn't have time to check during the break. You might assume they're relatively expensive, but maybe not. It was at an off-site location. It was in a hotel conference room near an airport. It was done secretly. She doesn't know who paid for it. Her description of it was unnerving. Her description of the polygraph was similar to her description of the assault. She was nervous and crying, and she described it as being all over her body, and that the polygraph official, the guy who took the she described him as being behind her. He was behind me. She felt very closed in this process. Now, the guy that did the polygraph was on Fox last night, said there were only two questions. Shannon Bream on Fox said that they had the polygraph expert on last, the guy who administered it, and there were only two questions. But she made it sound like it was a traumatic experience. She doesn't know who paid for it. No one's asking about that. There's a lot of questions that are not being asked here. One really curious thing to me is she said she didn't know that Senator Grassley had offered to send Judiciary Committee staff to California when they found out she's afraid of flying and couldn't come to Washington. She was invited It was in the media. It was widely known that the committee had made every effort to get to her, including offering to fly out there. She claimed not to know that. She seemed to be genuinely surprised by that today. Now, why doesn't she know that? Did her lawyers not tell her that? Did her lawyers withhold the Senate Judiciary Committee offer from her? When this all came up, one of her attorneys jumped to the microphone, and the attorney Katz, the Democrat Soros-funded activist, covered Dr. Ford's microphone with her hand and would not let her answer this question. And then eventually they had these little powwows, and Dr. Ford said, I would have gladly welcomed you to my home if... Look, I'm not... This is just how she speaks. You know me, I'm an impressionist here, folks. She has a speech pattern. I don't want to repeat myself on that. I've addressed it twice in the previous hour, but she has a definite speech pattern called up-talking, which it emphasizes, you raise your tone on the last word of a sentence. It promotes vulnerability, youth. It's how young girls talk. Everything's open-ended, unsure. It's totally innocent. $200 to $800 for a typical 2-hour polygraph. Walmart sells a polygraph machine for $100. If you want the Mac Daddy, it's $121. Can you get the Mac Daddy at Walmart? Yeah, let me rephrase. Is the Mac Daddy of all polygraph machines available at Walmart, or is it? Well, okay, that's what I'm getting at. Some polygraph machines cost $2,000. Anyway, it's like an EKG machine. You can get an EKG machine on your watch now, for $400, but a real EKG machine is going to set you back thousands. I don't know. She didn't know. She professed not to know that the committee had offered to come to California. So I don't know if her lawyers didn't tell her because they didn't want. The whole point of all this has been delay. Here's another thing. A bunch of leftist media types are saying, does this woman look like a leftist hack? Does this woman look like somebody who's part of a leftist conspiracy who's trying to bring down a conservative? She doesn't come across that way at all. She does to me. I'm sorry, but that's exactly how she comes. This is who they are, if you ask me. But remember, I am a lifelong student of the left. I know them as well as they know themselves, and maybe I know them better, because many of them are not honest about who and what they actually are. Many left-wing activists don't think they're left-wing. Many of them don't even think they're activists. There is no such thing as liberalism. They just are what's right. They are just what's normal. This hearing today does not change my perception that we on the right don't really know what we're up against. And it's not entirely our fault. But I do believe that liberalism, what everybody thinks it is, has kind of been taken over by what I think are people who have legitimate psychological disorders, and they have now sought the realm of politics to address those disorders and grievances. And so liberalism has basically become the home of people with psychological disorders and problems, and the Democrat Party has become their champion. And part and parcel of this is becoming a victim. And when you become a victim, nothing is ever your fault. And being a failure or being less than you can be or whatever, it's not your fault. It's somebody else's. There's always somebody to blame for what you aren't. Somebody to blame for what you are. Somebody to blame for what has happened to you. Somebody to blame for what hasn't happened to you. And it is the normalization of psychological disorders that is what we're up against here in many ways. This is a woman who has a doctorate in some kind of psychology, did not know what exculpatory means. She was being asked, a Democrat senator was setting her up for a grand slam home run. You realize coming forward that there could, with an FBI investigation, the Democrats are making a big deal over the fact there hasn't been one. And they're trying to make her look like she's very brave for asking for an FBI investigation, because you realize, Dr. Ford, that FBI investigation could produce evidence that would substantiate your case. Oh, yes, sir. and you're aware that an FBI investigation could also come up with exculpatory evidence. I'm sorry, Senator, I don't know what exculpatory. What is that? And I'm saying, how can that be? But then, Ocasio-Cortez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, has a degree in economics from Boston University and doesn't know the first thing about it. So let's grab the phones while we have some time here before the hearing resumes, and we'll start with Michelle in Pennsylvania. Hi, your turn. What do you think?
Well, I don't know where to start, Rush, and let me start by saying I am a recent convert to your show during the Obama years, and I thank you for what you do to enlighten us. I am a 52-year-old woman. In 1989, I was 23 years old, and I was the victim of a serious sexual assault. And when I say sexual assault, I mean rape. I have a problem with people saying sexual assault. Anyways, I don't forget one detail of what happened that New Year's Eve by no fault of my own. I remember the man's name. I remember what he looked like. I remember his eye color. I remember what he wore. I remember being trapped in that specific house and not being able to leave. So this woman, this doctor, this educated woman is just making my blood boil, and I don't want to pass judgment on her situation. I wasn't there, so I can't say. And I know everybody deals with trauma differently, but I find it very hard to believe that this educated, accomplished woman doesn't understand these questions, doesn't know her vocabulary. I just don't get it, and I'm very upset.
Let me ask you this, because I have a question for you, and this is what it's going to all come down to for everybody at the end of the day here. Do you believe, according to, after having listened to, do you believe that something happened to her in a room, in a house, in around 1982, at around sometime after 6 o'clock at night, approximately, do you believe something happened to this woman?
I don't want to pass judgment on another gal's situation, and I would have liked to have been able to see what was going on. I was just...
No, but I'm asking you to. This is because this is what these senators are going to have to decide. Did something happen to her? And then if the answer to that is yes, then, okay, do they believe her that it was Kavanaugh? She's unequivocal, 100%. Or are they going to believe Kavanaugh's denial later? Do you believe that she's being truthful, that something happened? I'm not asking you now if Kavanaugh did it. Do you believe, based on the way she's told the story, and you can add your own experience in if you want, but you're just watching this today. Do you believe something happened to her as she describes it?
I think she thinks something happened to her, and I think something might have happened to her at some point in her life. But whether she is coming forth of her own volition or she's being wound up by political parties with an agenda, that's another affair. But I don't think in this country you cannot just assassinate a person's character without some kind of evidence. I can tell you that friends and family of mine could vouch for what happened to me back then. There were specific timelines. People knew what happened.
Because you told them.
Because I did. You're darn right I did. So something doesn't add up. So my question is to these senators, what is not adding up?
Well, it depends on which senators you talk to, but let me just answer your question. We most certainly can in America today. You're watching it happen. We most certainly can destroy a life. We can destroy a career. We can destroy exceptional achievement. We can destroy a future and a past, and we can destroy a family.
You can.
We're watching it happen. We can absolutely. The Democrats are more than willing to do that. That's what we're up against, and that's one of the reasons our people are hamstrung. Don't know quite how to deal with people who are willing to do that. Here, imagine this setup. We're up against people who have no compunction whatsoever about doing just that, and what is our reaction? We can't be seen as bullies. They can bully Kavanaugh all day, and they're going to. They're going to. They can embark on a political course of action that will result in Brett Kavanaugh's life, career, accomplishments, and achievements being wiped out and destroyed. His future, and who knows what it's going to do to his family. They can do that all day long. They're doing it. We are saying to ourselves, we got to be real careful because we can't appear to be unfair or bullying of the woman who is making it possible. You're absolutely right. There is no corroborating evidence for this. And there isn't going to be when this is over. She's offered nothing new. She's offered no new evidence, no new proof, no nothing. Nothing new, nothing's changed. And yet, tune to the media, and the media is convinced. Even our media, Fox News, it's over. It may as well be over. The Democrats are hitting grand slam home runs with every 5-minute segment. The Republicans are not even on the field. Got to take a break. Back after this.
Rush, winning minds, winning hearts on the EIB network.
It'll be interesting to see if the Republicans on the committee are as frustrated as some of you are about how the morning has gone. It'll be interesting to see what strategery has been changed during the recess here, what procedural changes there might be. Now, Dr. Ford said something else that, to me, is contradictory. One of the people supposedly in the room when this assault happened was a friend of hers. The friend's name is Leland Kaiser. And Dr. Ford mentioned her again today as being there, but Kaiser remembers neither Kavanaugh nor the incident, and she's a friend. We've got time to squeeze in another call here. Pat in Chicago. You're next. Hello.
Hi, Rush. It's truly a great honor to speak with you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I heard everything that I needed to hear after her opening statement. I was writing down some notes as she was reading her opening statement.
Yep.
She indicated that both Kavanaugh and Judge were, quote, inebriated and belligerent, and that they had been drinking prior to coming to this residence. She indicated she can sketch a floor plan, so she remembers that portion of it. She said she had one beer, which sounds very contrived by her attorneys because they didn't want to say she was drunk and she was a participant in it. So let's say she did have one beer. And Kavanaugh and Judge had been drinking. They obviously had a lot of alcohol in their system. And 30 minutes later, she decides she's got to go to the bathroom, according to her. So they're obviously more drunk than they were when she got there. So they're beyond belligerent. They're beyond inebriated. So there's 4 or 5 people in there, whatever she determines, whichever way the wind's blowing, wherever she's writing the article. There's no music on downstairs. So in an unfamiliar house, she goes upstairs to find a bathroom. There was no bathroom on the first floor. There wasn't a half bath there. What was she doing, going to take a shower? She goes upstairs for some reason by herself, and these 2 belligerent and inebriated boys that were making all kinds of racket somehow snuck up behind her without her knowing and pushed her into a bedroom because she didn't turn around. She couldn't hear anything behind her with these boys that were just totally drunk and out of control, but somehow they made it up the steps behind her and they were super quiet. So they pushed her into this bedroom. They pushed her down on the bed, and for some reason in this bedroom there's music playing, according to her, when there's nobody in there. So the music isn't playing downstairs where the people are. The music's playing upstairs. And Kavanaugh cranks the music. So it's real loud, so when he puts his hand over her mouth, no one can hear her scream. Okay? So he's got this loud music up. She eventually gets away and runs into the bathroom that's off the bedroom. And she says she locks the door. Now, did she say Kavanaugh, after this, since he's trying to rape her, he comes over and jiggles the handle? He don't want to be shut down. Did he jiggle the handle? No, he didn't jiggle the handle. What did he do? He and Mark Judge went over, turned the music down so she could hear them not only...
Hold your thought. I got a break. Hold your thought. Right at that very moment. Hold your thought.
You're listening to Rush's Week in Review.
And back to the phones we go. Pat in Chicago. Please resume where you were. Kavanaugh had just turned down the music in the bedroom, which was the only room in the house, apparently, during a party there was music on.
Right. After his attempted rape, which we're told by the professionals that rape is about power, rape is about control. So after he's stymied of raping this girl and she gets away from him, escapes, goes into the bedroom, or into the bathroom that's off the bedroom, locks the door, What does he do? Does he try and take away more power from her? No. He turns down the music so she can hear what's going on, so she knows that it's safe for her to come out. So, and she claims that she could hear them going down and bouncing off the walls. They weren't bouncing off the walls when they came up. They were stealthy. But when they went down, they were bouncing off the walls, which gave her an opportunity to escape. So she unlocks the bathroom door, and instead of immediately going over, closing the bedroom door and locking it, because you know it's the same lock, so if he could get through the bedroom door, he's going to be able to get through the bathroom door, and looking for a phone in the bedroom saying, hey, so-and-so, you brought me to this party, you dropped me off, I'm having some problems here with the guy, I need you to come pick me up right now, I don't feel safe. Does she do that? No. What does she do? She walks downstairs, and according to her testimony, knowing that she had to walk past them, walked outside. Now, Kavanaugh's this great athlete, right? So what prevented him from chasing her? Why would she go outside? Why would she open herself up to that? She's in a strange neighborhood. She can't even define where this house is. She goes outside not having any mode of transportation to take her anywhere that she wants to go. And she goes outside by herself. Did she take her friend with her? Where's Leland? Why didn't she say, Leland, he just tried to attack me. Stay with me until I get somewhere safe. Did she do that? No, she doesn't. And to piggyback off of what you said, after being freed and she's safe, wouldn't you think she would know what happened next after that life?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, picking up right where you left off, the thing that is really hard to believe is that she can't remember how she got away from there. She can't remember how she got home. I don't know how you would forget that. How would you? That's your escape. That's how you get to safety. That's how you rewrap yourself in your cocoon of security. She can't remember that. She would have had to have made decisions. Was she going to walk, catch a cab, call mom and dad, hitchhike, ask somebody at the party, is there somebody who can drive me? We don't know. She can't tell us how she got out of there.
So in this case, you know, it's basically her witnesses, quote unquote. They will not corroborate what she's saying. Her best friend, this Leland, was her best friend, said it never happened. She was never there.
Right.
Now, in a case like this, let's say it's he said, she said. In a case like that, and it's 35 years old, in my book, plausibility determines credibility. And if anybody finds her story plausible, they're sick in the head.
Well, it's more than that. Is this, if this story, uncorroborated, no evidence, no witnesses, is this what you will use to disqualify a nominee about whom everything else in life we know? We know his achievements. We know his decisions. We know his writings. We know through 6 FBI investigations. We know everything there is to know about this guy except for this one tale, which can't be corroborated, for which there's no evidence. Are we going to keep a guy off the court for that? Balancing this, what we're hearing today, against what we know about the rest of and the entirety of his life. Look, Pat, the hearing is resumed. I'm going to jip it here again. Maisie Hirono is now questioning the Dr. Ford. Thanks for the call, and let's pot it back up here.
She will persist in asking these questions, all to undermine the memory and basically the credibility of Dr. Ford. But we all know Dr. Ford's memory of the assault is very clear. Dr. Ford, the Republicans prosecutor has asked you all kinds of questions about who you called and when, asking details that would be asked in a cross-examination of a witness in a criminal trial. But this is not a criminal proceeding. This is a confirmation proceeding. I think I know what she's trying to get at.
Senator. You're running a criminal trial here.
Very plainly, Dr. Ford, is there a political motivation for your coming forward with your account of the assault by Brett Kavanaugh?
No, and I'd like to reiterate that, again, I was trying to get the information to you while there was still a list of other,
thank you,
what looked like equally qualified candidates.
Okay.
And yet they're not here to testify. Dr. Ford, I'd like to join my colleagues who have thanked you for coming forward today. And we all admire you for what you're doing. And I understand why you have come forward. You wanted us and the American people to know what you knew about the character of the man we are considering for a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. I want to take a moment also to note the significant personal sacrifices you've made to come forward to share your traumatic experience with us and the American people. You've had to move, you've had death threats, all manner of basically re-victimization experiences have come your ways. But
I got to make a note about this, folks.
You have inserted the question of character into this nomination and hopefully back into American life, and rightly so. We should be made to face the question of who it is we are putting in positions of power and decision-making in this country. We should look the question square in the face. Does character matter? Do our values, our real values about what is right and what is wrong?
Does her character matter, Senator?
Human beings with dignity and respect, do they matter anymore?
What about hers?
Do. And I believe the reaction we have seen to this coverage right now and your courage all over this country shows us that we're not alone. You're not alone.
What is
that
this
women
we?
and men all across America are disgusted and sick and tired of the way basic human decency has been driven from our public life. The president admits on tape to assaulting women. He separates children from their parents. He takes basic health care protections from those who need them most. He nominates and stands behind a man who stands credibly accused of a horrible act. I again want to thank you for coming forward. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that 6 items consisting of various statements, letters, fact sheet, posts are inserted into the record.
Is that one request, or you want me to wait for 6?
Well, I have 6 separate items.
Okay.
They consist, I can go over them for you.
Okay, no.
I would like to...
Let me not interrupt you. Okay. Your request is accepted without objection.
Thank you. And I would like to read from an item that has already been entered into the record, but this is from a letter from the National Task Force to End Sexual and Domestic Violence. The letter states, and I quote this letter, "This moment has become a crucible. It's a test of our progress. Do we start by believing victims of sexual assault and treating them with dignity, or don't we? So far, Senate leaders are failing that test, prejudging the outcome of the hearing, sympathizing with her perpetrator, attacking her credibility. They send a message to every victim of sexual violence that their pain doesn't matter, that they do not deserve justice, and that for them, fair treatment is out of reach. This will only serve to drive victims into the shadows and further embolden abusers." Once again, Dr. Ford, thank you very much. This is a moment for our country. Mahalo.
Sure as hell is.
Senator, Ms. Mitchell for Senator Crapel.
Okay, let's see what happens here.
When we left off, we were still talking about the polygraph, and I believe you said it hasn't been paid for yet. Is that correct?
Let me put an end to this mystery. Her lawyers have paid for her polygraph.
As is routine.
As is routine.
Dr. Ford, do you expect the price of that polygraph to be passed on to you?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't taken a look at all of the costs involved in this. We've relocated now twice, so I haven't kept track of all of that paperwork, but I'm sure I have a lot of work to do to catch up on all of that later.
I get you have a lot going on, and you've had that for several months.
I don't know.
Is it your understanding that someone else is going to assist you with some of these fees, including the cost for your polygraph?
I'm aware that there's been several GoFundMe sites that I haven't had a chance to figure out how to manage those because I've never had one.
And I'm sorry,
done for me.
Several what?
GoFundMe sites that have raised money primarily
don't even know what it is.
Detail. So I'm not even quite sure how to collect that money and how to distribute it yet. I haven't.
Your lawyers will figure that out. Probably already have.
In your testimony this morning, you stated that Senator Feinstein sent you a letter on August 31st of this year. Is that right?
August 31st.
See, I don't remember. Lawyers are having to consult with. I'm really lost here. I don't see.
I sent her a letter on July 30th, and I don't have the date. I'd have to pull up my email to find out the date of her email to me saying that it was right before the hearings that she was going to maintain the confidentiality of the letter.
Say that again. It was till right before the hearings.
That's my memory, but I can look it up for you if you would like the exact date. I could pull it up on my email.
Oh, yeah. I want to make sure.
Counsel?
I want to make sure I understood what you said.
That document's been turned over to, in response to a request for documents. You have it.
Thank you, counsel. I want to make sure I understood what you said. Was it your understanding it was going to be kept confidential up until right before the hearing?
It was my understanding that it was going to be kept confidential. Period.
Period. Okay. Between your polygraph on August the 7th and your receipt of the letter from Senator Feinstein, did you or anyone on your behalf speak to any member of Congress or congressional staff about these allegations?
I personally did not.
So my question was, did you or anybody on your behalf?
What do you mean? Did someone speak for me?
Somebody that is working with you or helping you? Did somebody at your behest, on your behalf, speak to somebody in Congress or staff?
I'm not sure.
Oh, no.
I'm not sure how those exchanges went.
How does that help me get rid of Kavanaugh? How does that? What does that have to do with getting rid of Kavanaugh?
Is it possible that somebody did?
I think so. It would be possible.
What does this have to do with getting rid of Kavanaugh?
It would be possible. I don't know.
Okay.
Excuse me, you've asked her not to guess, and now you're asking her what's possible. So I think if you want to ask her what she knows, you should ask her what she knows.
This is just like a deposition. It's exactly what a deposition looks like, which is not what's called for here, but we'll stick with it, folks. We gotta...
I don't know what I don't understand.
I don't understand. How does this help get rid of the judge?
Not answering it on advice of your counsel.
So I don't totally understand the question, but I didn't speak with anyone during that time frame other than my counsel.
Okay. You've said repeatedly that you did not think that letter that you wrote on July 30th was going to be released to the public. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And is it true that you did not authorize it to be released at any time?
Correct.
Okay. Besides your attorneys, did you provided that letter to Senator Feinstein, is that correct?
I provided her a letter on July 30th.
We're talking about the July 30th letter.
Okay.
Right.
And you provided that letter to Senator Feinstein, correct? Is that a yes?
Yes.
And you provided the letter to Representative Eshoo to deliver to Senator Feinstein?
Yes.
Besides those two individuals, Representative Eshoo and Senator Feinstein, and your attorneys, did you provide that letter to anyone else?
No.
Do you know how that letter became public?